Joining us now, our friend Grover Norquist, president of Americans for Tax Reform. You can find atr.org. And of course, he's an author. He's been tackling this for years. This is his wheelhouse. Grover, first off, good to see you. So glad that you're with us today. I'm sure that you're so
Absolutely.
excited about all of this, the redefinition of recession and this amazing inflation bill, which looks like it's just short of $1 trillion tax hike.
Yes, and UPenn Wharton says it will increase inflation, despite the odd position of Manchin that it will so slow down the economy that would reduce inflation. When the president says this bill will help us fight inflation, he's admitting something that he'd been lying about for a year. There wasn't any inflation. It was going to be transitory. It was all going to be over last December. Now that he's got to deal with the recession, he goes, let's talk about inflation. So when you're trying to look, pay no attention to the recession, look at the inflation, you've got a losing hand.
Yeah, a very, very much a losing hand. This deal, I was reading a little bit about it. I know that a lot of the details are still a little sketchy because we have a couple of summaries from Mitch McConnell, him and Manchin. And of course, we're talking about the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. But none of this looks good. This was definitely kind of a bait and switch, as I understand, although they should have been full aware. I mean, Joe Manchin's a Democrat for a reason. He might be moderate, but he's still a Democrat. Caucuses with Democrats, votes with Democrats. He likes taxes like Democrats do. We're doubling the IRS the way that I see it. They're getting new vehicles. We're expanding Obamacare insurance subsidies. There's a lot of bad stuff in here that not only looks to add to the deficit, but make inflation last for a heck of a lot longer, Grover.
Sure, they're adding a whole bunch of welfare, and then they're creating entire subsidized industries that would not exist except for the hundreds of billions of dollars in subsidies. And then, of course, should the Republicans maybe come to take the House and the Senate, the Democrats will say to this entire collection of industries, you do know you only exist in a subsidy world. That's us. They can set up their own chamber of commerce of subsidized companies and fund the modern Democratic Party.
Yeah, they set themselves up for always getting donations from these groups, from these entities, and they have they feather themselves a nice little nest here. Talk to us a little bit about the taxes for this too, because we always hear that, it's going to be the corporations that are going to be paying their fair share. It's the corporations, and there's climate stuff in this. The way that I see it, though, especially when you look through, when you look at the Passover, the pass-through tax, when the corporate tax, the 15% rate. I mean, there's so many things. Talk to me a little bit about the business, the impact that this is going to have on business, because ultimately, everybody's paying more for commodities. We're all paying more for gas, basic items. This is only going to add to that because businesses have to pass this cost.
Yeah. Bottom line is it's all bad. It's all bad, and it's going to be worse. They're giving $80 billion. First of all, they're going to take $80 billion from you and I and the rest of the country and hand it to the IRS. What are they going to do with it? Among other things, they're specifically going to get them more office space. Now, the IRS recently admitted that more than half of IRS agents do not come to work ever. The other half, they don't tell you how often they get there, maybe once a week, twice a week, but half, 53%, don't show up. They've got nothing but empty offices over at the IRS, and there's a line item in there, more for that. They're going to be more money to get more vehicles for the IRS.
Yeah, that shocked me. Why do they need a vehicle fleet?
Well, you wonder because the inspectors general said they've got vehicles that they're not using now, and they can't tell whether the vehicles they have, the cars and so on, whether people are using them to go on vacation or whether it's just for work. You or I get fined if we used a company car and took a vacation with it, and you have to be able to prove it. The IRS cannot prove that it's not using the cars that it does have for just that purposes. So why does the IRS get more money? These are the people who allowed some IRS agents stole or allowed to be stolen thousands and thousands of people's personal IRS data. It went to a left-wing group, which was then did political things with it, and they kept telling the Senate, well, we're going to come and tell you what happened, we're going to tell you, and they refused to make any effort to solve this problem or even to tell people what's happening.
Yeah.
The IRS, they announced, the inspectors general found that 30 million pieces of people's IRS, their reports, their tax returns, have been destroyed. Why, where, how, we don't know. But if the IRS is hounding you because they say you forgot to give them, proof that you moved money from one place to another, it may be among the 30 million pieces of paper that they burned or buried or did something with. So why the IRS? The IRS has a union. 100% of their political donations that go to parties, 100% go to the Democrat Party or the Senatorial Committee or the Congressional Committee. 98, 99% of all candidates that get money from them are Democrats. So we're going to be putting out a list of all the people they give money to, and I'll bet you a nickel, every last one of them is going to vote for this measure to give the IRS more money to hire 87,000 bureaucrats who will all pay dues, who will then shift it and share it out back to the Democratic Party.
What a very clever way to move money to Democrats. Talking with Grover Norquist of Americans for Tax Reform. You go through, you in a really great piece that we'll make sure to share as well, a 50% increase in small business audits. I didn't realize that they only answered phones. There's actually a study on this. You guys looked into it. They only answered phones 19 or 20% of the time. You also get into the IRS union bosses. There is nothing. I mean, they're already too large, and that's just me going along with the idea that they should exist as an agency in the first place, which I don't think they should. I'm all for whoever says we need to just deconstruct the IRS, but you would think that some of this money would go towards, I don't know, better services to the people paying taxes, and instead it's not. This is how is this even allowed legally, especially since so much of this money, this is just moving money from the taxpayer to Democrats under the guise of taxpayer services.
Well, that's what they hope to do with the entire alternative energy industry. The alternative energy, the make-believe energy, the energy that doesn't make enough energy to pay for itself, so you have to subsidize it, that energy, those companies have to give money to Democrats every year, all the time, because they don't make sense economically.
Yeah, they don't. They cannot exist without being propped up by the government. I mean, I don't have anything against alternative forms of energy. I just don't like them. I love gas and oil. I love the smell of gasoline. It's wonderful. It's plentiful. We have tons of it. We could be self-sufficient. We were under the previous administration. Talking with Grover Norquist of Americans for Tax Reform, what's going to be first off, do you think something like this is going to pass the Senate? Because I know that there's been some shady dealings going on just to get to this point to where they're even going to, have a vote on this bill. Is this going to pass, and what's the impact of this going to be overall?
Well, they wrote it in secret, and Manchin had agreed to it a while ago, but then only announced he was for it after that stupid chips bill, the subsidy for microchips and so on, passed. And then they said, oh, by the way, we have this other thing. It was all written out. Now, if they thought it was a good idea and people would like it, this Build Back Better, they'd have been bragging about it all spring and summer. But the fact that they had to write it in secret and only dump it on people when they thought they'd won the fight suggests is that the longer we have to look at it, watch them try and rush this through. Sinema, the senator from Arizona, she's conducted all of her negotiations one-on-one with the president in the White House, not with Schumer, and Schumer's trying to jam her. So will Schumer and Manchin publicly humiliate Sinema, who said, we're not raising corporate rates. That kills jobs. Corporations don't pay taxes. They collect taxes when they sell product and they have money, and then the government comes and takes it. About 70% of corporate income taxes is paid for by lower wages for workers, because that's what companies do. If you have $1 million, about 70% of it's for workers, then 30% for other stuff. Wages go down and prices go up when you raise taxes on corporations. So the only goal of the corporate tax is to hide who's paying the bill. And almost all of the tax that in this bill is the corporate tax. This is exactly what Sinema said she saw through, wasn't going to tolerate. I mean, they're really humiliating that woman by dropping this, and everybody's ignoring her completely. She has the key vote. Manchin had a key vote once. Now she's the key vote. She can save us from this. And at being from Arizona, she could be the Democrat John McCain, who crosses the aisle and does what they think need to be done. It worked for McCain for years. I don't think the Democrats can take her out if she said, this is too much. Yeah. I'm saying no to it. because a lot of Republicans and independents would really respect that.
She seems pretty popular in Arizona with this too. Talk to me a little bit about what ended up getting Manchin. The way, and I may be incorrect on this. The way that I understood it, it was this, what is it, 300 some odd billion or something for deficit reduction, which makes no sense to me. It's, I mean, I made the joke. It's like screwing for chastity to spend money in order to get yourself out of debt. Talk to us a little bit about this deal that apparently was made to get him to cross over and go back with Democrats on this.
This is where you wonder about who's less with it, Biden or Manchin. To tell Manchin, so we're going to take $700 billion, but we're not going to spend $300 billion. Oh, really? What are you going to do with it? Okay. Well, we'll hold it until Manchin's not looking, and then we'll spend it. Once you've taken the money, you're going to spend it. Manchin cannot possibly be that stupid, okay? He knows exactly what they're going to do with that money. They know what they're going to do with that money. And if you thought that the stuff that they're telling us about, they've got a tax on the production of natural gas. Is one of the things Manchin agreed to. He's supposed to be Mr. Energy.
West Virginia, how would you? He lied to his voters on that.
Yes. Oh, he promised his voters he'd never support a tax increase during a recession.
Yes.
We've tweeted that out. There's a great little quote from him. It's a significant quote. When he was asking for West Virginia's vote, he said, I cannot possibly ask them for more taxes until during a recession or until I can show that the government's not wasting their money. Neither of those conditions exist. So he lied his way into office after he did this. That's why I didn't think he was going to do it. Maybe he's decided he's never running for office again, and there's a nice cushy corporate job somewhere.
Yes, he's getting something bigger out of this, definitely. Last question for you, talking with our friend Grover Norquist, Americans for Tax Reform. They do such a good job watching out for the American taxpayer. The definition of recession, Wikipedia has undergone so many revisions just in the past 48 hours. It's comical.
Oh.
It's becoming a meme in and of itself. We are in a recession. Clinton has even said that it's 2 quarters of shrinkage, really no growth. This is a recession. I'm not an economist. I took Economics 101 in college. I know the basics. This goes against everything that I've ever been told every single time this has ever happened, Grover. Why are they trying to change it now?
It's in the dictionary. You can't. The Wikipedia has the advantage. You can go click, 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 and it's all changed.
Yeah.
But the dictionary doesn't change on a whim. The Washington Post and New York Times headlines on this are almost identical. You wonder if it's the same person writing them. Fears of recession have gone up. Not how about we're in a recession. It's fears of a recession. This is by definition a recession. 6 months of low growth. This bill will put us further into fewer jobs. That $300 billion on corporate is the really bad tax increase, because what it does is it says if you expense things like wages and investing in new plant and equipment, you don't pay taxes on that because you don't have the money, because it isn't income because you spent it. Okay. Now, if you later make money because you have a new factory, you pay taxes on that. But this is money you're not paying taxes on because you're doing exactly what the government says they want you to do: hire people, build new factories. We won't tax you. Manchin comes in and says we're going to steal 15% of what you were planning on investing in building your company. This is why Amazon doesn't pay any taxes, because they're investing. Instead of taking the money and buying yachts with it, all the money that's coming into Amazon, they're spending into creating more jobs and building the company up. That's exactly what you want companies to do. Now Manchin and Biden and the Democrats go, we're going to hurt you if you invest more in the United States. You don't get to expense. It used to be Democrats were very much in favor of expensing with John F. Kennedy. Even during the Reagan years, the Democrats said, hey, we like expensing. Now they've decided they just want the cash and they don't care about jobs anymore. The working people are not voting for them, so to heck with them as far as the Democrats are concerned.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. And that's the big thing. Working people. We had a whole thing about that last month, looking at how the demographic has changed and now their economic policy has changed with it. ATR.org is the site for Americans for Tax Reform. Grover Norquist, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. Good to see you.
Good to be with you.